This letter from the outgoing Republican Chairman Trey Gowdy and Bob Goodlatte got buried at the end of last week, and it does contain new information about recent closed-door testimony from former senior FBI officials, including top lawyer James Baker. According to the letter, Baker told House investigators that there was a basis to pursue a case against Hillary Clinton for using an unsecured personal server for government business and mishandling of classified information. Baker also said Comey's decision to recommend against criminal charges was not shared by all. Quote, Director Comey stated no reasonable prosecutor would have brought the case against Secretary Clinton and that his decision not to was unanimous among those involved. FBI General Counsel James Baker, however, initially did believe the case could be made, and multiple witnesses testified to the committees the FBI's decision not to recommend charges was not unanimous. Democrats have maintained that this was all old news and that this is sort of well-trodden ground, and that was really an effort by Republicans to damage the special counsel. And Democrats, not surprisingly, have said that they will end any investigation along these lines when they take the gavel in a matter of days. Leland.
All right, Catherine, so how does this play into House Republicans' renewed call for that second special counsel?
Okay, so the Comey interview transcript was recently released, and it does show a series of heated questions about his handling of these key memos, some containing classified information that documented his conversations with the president. You recall Comey shared at least one memo with a Columbia law professor, Daniel Richman, to kickstart the entire special counsel investigation. It's worth noting that memos were also shared with Comey's lawyers David Kelly and Patrick Fitzgerald. Comey was pressed by Republican John Radcliffe over whether the former director violated his own FBI employment agreement by sharing the memos and possibly mishandling classified information in the process. Radcliffe, did you have written authorization from the FBI to share any of the Comey memos with Daniel Richman? Comey, I did not have written authorization from the FBI to share the February 14th memo. Radcliffe, if you shared any information with David Kelly or Patrick Fitzgerald, did you have written authorization from the FBI to do that? Comey, I'm not going to answer questions about my communications with my counsel. At the time, Fox News pressed the former director about whether he mishandled classified information sharing those memos. Was there a spill of classified information when you shared those memos?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about something like that.
Well, that's important to talk about whether classified information was mishandled.
Whether you think it is or not, I'm not going to talk about it one way or another.
It's important to note that in his own testimony, Comey confirmed that the Justice Department Inspector General is investigating his handling of these memos, but Comey said he didn't know where that investigation stood. Leland.
You heard from James Comey last week, and then he will be back on December 17th. When he came out, he was very upset that that was not an open forum. And when he came out and talked to reporters, he said that. He said there's no reason why this shouldn't have been an open forum. He also said that the suggestion that there was FISA abuse in the initial stages of the investigation into the Trump campaign and any connection to Russia was ridiculous, absurd, I think is the word that he used.
You know, Martha, I was disappointed in what he didn't remember, but I was much more disappointed in what he never knew. The head of the FBI has the campaign of a presidential candidate under investigation. He never read the initiation document, didn't know that Peter Strzok had signed it. Still to this day doesn't know that it makes reference to the Trump campaign. He just thinks it's 4 individuals, doesn't know who Christopher Steele is, doesn't know much about Bruce Orr, knows nothing about efforts to either corroborate or contradict the dossier. Doesn't agree that there's a duty to produce exculpatory information. You know, I asked him, when did you learn that the DNC was funding the Oppo research into Trump? Oh, I don't know. As if it doesn't matter. Well, if you know and you're not telling a judge, I mean, don't you think it's relevant? Hey, my political enemies are responsible for everything I'm giving you, or a third of what I'm giving you. A judge wants to know that. So Comey is one of the best I've ever seen at always being right in his mind. And it doesn't matter if he's a universe of one. When you write a book about ethics and morality, that in and of itself is a fairly high opinion of yourself thing to do. Comey just thinks he's always right, and it doesn't matter if Horowitz thinks he's wrong, and it doesn't matter if everyone else concludes he did wrong. He knows better, so that's what it's like to interview an amnesiac with incredible hubris.
Do you believe that he functioned as a political FBI director?
I think Jim Comey was primarily motivated by a desire to protect the brand of Jim Comey. I defended him a lot in 2016, even when it was lonely to do so. I would still defend him today if I thought he was making right decisions. But he's been so overtly partisan since he left. Not just president, but he wants people to vote Democrat. He wants a Democrat House. He's just become a political flunky. And it's the same guy in this very room that you or I in right now said the FBI doesn't give a hoot about politics. And yet Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and Baker and McCabe, that's who was running these two major investigations. And he wants us to believe they don't care about politics. Go read the text for yourself. Go read Comey's Twitter feed and see whether or not he cares about politics.
What do you think about President Trump? You met him for the first time.
Yes, ma'am.
This week.
Yesterday. Yes, ma'am. Number one, appreciate him letting me come. I wanted to advocate for John Ratcliffe for AG, and he'd already made the AG pick, but he was kind enough to let me come anyway. Wide-ranging conversation from life and Kavanaugh. The opinion just came out yesterday. Not the opinion, but the denial of cert. Golf.
What did he say about that?
Well, he asked my opinion, which he did that a lot. He said, "What do you think about it?" And my sense is that Roberts and Kavanaugh did not think those were the right facts to have another hearing on an abortion-related case. And then we morphed into my time as a prosecutor. I actually had a victim become pregnant as a result of a rape. So we talked about exceptions and whether or not I believe in them. We talked about Chief of Staff. We talked about AG. He got Lindsay on the phone at one point so we could talk about it. Was a fascinating.
Does he have a Chief of Staff in mind that he seemed to be leaning towards?
If he did, he didn't share it with me.
As you leave this position and we see the new Congress coming in, a majority of Democrats on the House side, what do you expect they will pursue in terms of oversight given the landscape right now?
Everything. Everything that their base wants them to pursue, everything that is calculated to disrupt the last 2 years of the Trump, of this tenure in office. And they may be smart enough not to pursue impeachment, although some of them are not. I mean, 60 of them have already said he should be impeached, and Mueller hadn't issued a single finding yet. So it will be very, very difficult for this administration, and they're going to have to decide how they're going to handle subpoenas and requests for information. It will be bitterly ironic for me to listen to Democrats clamor for the administration to be responsive when they didn't say a word for the 6 years we were trying to get information from the Obama administration.
So another day of Hillary Clinton's emails and the Steele dossier. Questions about Hillary Clinton and the Steele dossier strike me as more of the same. I didn't learn anything new in there. Maybe they did. They got truthful testimony from me. When you're the director of an organization of 38,000, sometimes you don't know what form people filled out. That's silliness.
A defiant James Comey lashing out at Republicans after more closed-door testimony before two House committees. Comey accusing the GOP of not defending the FBI from President Trump's attacks. Joining us now, one of the lawmakers who questioned Comey, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte. Mr. Chairman, thank you for coming on this morning.
Good to be with you, Sandra.
First off, how would you characterize that meeting behind closed doors?
Well, first of all, it's important to note that a year and a half after James Comey was fired, he's still playing games with the Congress over this issue. We've interviewed 14 other witnesses, all of whom who had security clearances but lost them when they were fired, went and got them back on a temporary basis. James Comey refused to do that. So if you read the transcript, you'll note a number of times when he's asked about a matter, he says, well, that's classified. And the point is, even if we had moved the interview into a classified setting, he still would not have been able to answer the questions that he knew the answers to because they were classified and he didn't have clearance to talk about them. That's the kind of things we've had to put up with Mr. Comey. It's also very interesting that when Loretta Lynch told Mr. Comey to treat the Clinton investigation as a matter, he didn't seek a special counsel. And when Loretta Lynch met with President Bill Clinton on the tarmac right before the announcement was made regarding that investigation. He didn't seek a special counsel, although he claims he thought about one. But when he was fired, that's when he engaged in leaking documents in order to get a special counsel appointed. And based on, now that we have neared the end of this investigation, based upon, in my opinion, very false premises.
Well, he spoke to reporters right after this took place, and he said it was frustrating to be here, were his words. And he really dismissed the questions that he received from lawmakers in that room as old news. He said the questions about Hillary Clinton and Steele dossier strike me as more of the same. I didn't learn anything new in there. Maybe they did. Did you?
Well, we didn't learn as much as we would like, because James Comey continued his pattern of answering questions that he liked answering and not answering for a variety of reasons, including I don't know, I don't recall, I don't remember, it's classified, it's part of an ongoing investigation. The reasons for him not telling everything he needs to tell are striking. But it is very clear, and I think it's very interesting that he at least opened the door to acknowledging that with regard to General Flynn, I don't think that's old news, since he's being sentenced today. But with regard to General Flynn, he acknowledged that they did not follow proper protocol, and even bragged about how he could get away with sending FBI agents to the White House and not following proper protocol, not notifying Mr. Flynn that he should have an attorney present.
So, Mr. Chairman, two quick questions, because I'm going to have to go here in a second. But one, do you have any regret about not making that hearing public?
No, none whatsoever. The whole transcript is there, and you can get far more information when you don't have 5 minutes for Trey Gowdy or John Ratcliffe or Mark Meadows or Jim Jordan or myself. 5 minutes is not a lot of time to cross-examine somebody. Finally, so we had 11 hours of direct questioning of him.
And sorry for the interruption there, but finally, just a few seconds left. Michael Flynn, you just mentioned him. We're awaiting his sentencing. The hearing's underway right now. Final thoughts on that, if you could, sir.
Well, I hope he's treated fairly. I think it's disgraceful that Mr. Comey would brag that the Trump White House, 4 days old, by the way, on January 24th, 2017, 4 days old. And he's saying, well, they're not as well organized as the Obama White House was, where he couldn't get away with what he did. I hope that is brought out in the trial today.
Chairman Bob Goodlatte, thank you for your time this morning, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.